Welcome to The Eyes of Indigo with your infinitely curious hosts, Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Our show is broadcast live at 9:30 p.m. Wednesdays. Socio-spiritual topics are laced with humor as we discuss weird stuff in a rational way. Learn more about us in our first episode, The Prequel. Shows are recorded and available on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, and other aggregators. A keyword searchable index is at iriscarter.com/EOI directory. Share ideas and comments in the program chat or by email. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share our show. Let us know you're here by typing your hello in the comments because we are thrilled to welcome you as we begin another adventure right now.
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah.
We are live. Very good.
Live is always entertaining. We just never know what to expect.
Technology is quite the conundrum lately. Yeah, everybody's tech is being wonky, and internet is sometimes unstable. It's crazy. The internet
changes. Today from work, because I work for a community college, and the main community college office sent out a thing saying that about 12 counties have been affected by, there were 2 cuts in some fiber something, and put out 12 counties in the eastern part of the state, part of Raleigh and the eastern part of the state put out their internet. And so it's kind of wonky. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, it would be easy for somebody to wipe it out, but that just sort of brings it home,
how delicate it actually is.
Just snip, snip,
Makes you wonder, oops, they haven't done that in 30, 40 years. Why now? They knew it was there. It's been there 30, 40. Internet's been around that long. But, yeah, it makes you wonder. And I'm surprised they reported that. What you got?
Speaking of 30 to 40 years, it reminds me, somebody was talking this morning on the radio, and it just blew my mind. They said, if the movie Back to the Future, you remember he went back to the 50s to his parents' day.
1955, yeah.
Right. He went back 30 years. If that movie was made today, we would be going back to 1993. Not quite the same.
Wow.
Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
It's not the same ring, not at all, but I still think that would be fascinating. But the world in the 1950s was entirely different from the 1980s.
But from 93 to now, yes, there's been a lot of changes, but
not the same way.
Not in the same way.
Not social.
And they were saying, like Mr. Sandman was the song he heard when he went back. What song represents the 90s? 93 especially.
I'm thinking something like Karma Chameleon or something. No, that was the 80s.
That's 80s, yeah.
That's the 80s. What was big? Guys, anybody who's listening, what do you think the major musical hit from the 90s makes you think of classical 90s music? What was I doing? I was out of college and doing my first few.
Duran, Hathaway, Tina Turner, Meatloaf.
Those are
Janet Jackson. No, these are 93.
Meatloaf and Tina Turner? Wow. Those were the
Meatloaf, I'd Do Anything for Love, 1993. Tina Turner, I Don't Want to Fight, 1993. Billboard Hot 100. Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You.
There. Bingo.
UB40. Let's see. Wait a minute.
UB40.
Yeah, that's
Sting. Sting.
No, can't help but be in love with him. Looking, Mariah Carey. Oh God, don't get me on her. Dr. Dre, Boys to Men.
Yeah.
Peebo Bryson and Regina Belle, A Whole New World.
That's Disney. Yeah. Disney music.
Billy Joel, River of Dreams. Spin Doctors, Two Princes.
I don't remember that one.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I can't. I'm gonna mess it up. It's a cute song. I'm Every Woman by Whitney Houston, which was a remake of an early,
Yes.
that's been around a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that the sound of Whitney Houston would be a good representation of the 90s.
Yeah.
Because she was an actress as well. So.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyway, I just thought that was a funny retrospective. So guys, if you're watching us, yes, there is. Oh, Lisa Crow, Counting Crows. Lisa Klein. I'm sorry, I was reading the line at the same time. Lisa said Mr. J by Counting Crows. And then Dale and Jean Stacy said that they're here. Good to see y'all. Yeah, we're going to tell everybody to be sure to speak up if you're here. Let us know that you're here. And I'm Iris and that's Margot. So I can take down the little name signs. We don't have to have them running on our upper lips anymore.
Guys, I'm coming to you through my cell phone. I'm having computer problems. Surprise! So I actually cannot see the chat at all.
Okay, well, I'll be sure to be doubly on top of it. So we're glad to have you back, Margot.
Thank you. Yeah, last week was an adventure for sure. But we're back now and just in time for technical crap to go wrong here.
So why do you think
I'm bringing it with me? That's what. I'll own it.
Have you thought about letting go of that obligation to bring it with you?
That's a good way to frame it. Yes, this whole thing all last week and what happens here, it's all has been severe exercises. Severe is one word, extreme maybe, exercises in the concept of letting go. Huge, profound exercises.
Messages and practices of letting go.
Mm-hmm. And usually they throw you a lesson and they give you an opportunity to learn it, and then they move on to the next lesson. I keep getting lesson and let it go. Then they bring me a next level of let go. And now they're bringing me more levels of how to let go. And I'm seeing a key or a trend. This is letting go with grace and ease. It does not have to be a shit show. It does not have to be a dramatic, crash and burn. And it doesn't have to mean the death and the end of anything either. It means change. Let go means change how you see it and let it evolve the way it wants, which is a change for yourself when you let go how you perceive something. You are removing limits, the limits you put on I'm pointing at myself as an example. Limits that my preconceived notions are attached to an outcome. So letting go of all that. And apparently I'm having to let go at multiple levels in multiple areas of my life. And when I say let go, we'll talk more about that during the show, I'm sure. But I mean letting go of expectations. I don't mean cutting off heads at every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One real quick thing. I want to say, hey, Ashley Franks, thank you. I want to ask you this, Margot.
Yes.
How does holding on benefit you?
If I go there really quick and really deep and look at the very first answers coming off, I tend to get the clearest answer and The clearest answer is it brings me validation on some level. Okay, it brings me I take that back. It doesn't validate me on any level. It gives me an experience of feeling that I'm being validated at some level.
So that's where that's where we would then pull some beliefs and ask for downloads to adjust and so that you can remember how to recognize validation free of having to hold on to the past and the things that no longer serve you.
Correct.
Oh, you can say yes if you want that.
Oh, yes. Oh, I didn't know we were in process. Yes, please.
No, it started processing on me, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, she needs to say yes to get that. That's
Yes,
some deep
please.
shit right there. If
Absolutely.
anybody else wants it, say yes.
Yeah. And if anybody else related to that, say yes, and it'll come to you too. Yeah.
Because I think it is important to recognize that, and it's not just knowing or learning how, it's remembering that we have validation anytime we want it.
Yeah,
Through all that is.
we are our own validation infinitely.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
we
we
don't.
don't have to find it outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can see you better. Okay, thanks. Yeah,
Yes, awesome.
this is a lot closer than normal. So yeah.
Dale and Jeannie says it's beautiful, Margot, with grace and ease. That's very true. And Ashley says, yes, so good for you, Ashley. Yeah, take that in. And that just gives me chills when stuff like that comes in. So today, what are we talking about today? We're talking about everything but, okay. but it's all related.
Yeah, everything we're talking about so far is all related to why we have contracts.
Yes. Energetic contracts are agreements. And in general, just in life in general, contracts are agreements that are sealed verbally with handshakes, signatures, a promise, even a kiss. But did you know they can be made on an energetic soul level? We're going to look into how we use these contracts to move us forward in life and what to do when agreements no longer serve us. So that's sort of our focus. We end up sometimes
We let go of the outcome.
yeah, exactly. We're under no contractual agreement as to what we actually bring you. We're just proposing this is what we think we're going to bring you.
The first thing, my nose is tickling off the hook. And for those of you that know, yeah, we're hitting some high vibes here. The first thing that occurred to me is we want is terminology. The word agreements in this context, the word agreements and the word contracts are interchangeable in this context. So yeah, agreements are not something separate from contracts. Contracts are agreements in this context.
Yeah. And I think, well, and also recognize we have a lot of vocabulary in our language that also applies to the same thing. Like we make vows and promises, and that's where choosing your words carefully can mean a lot on the soul level. And one thing I did when I started with theta healing, one thing that really struck me, because I am a word person, I love words. And one of the things was, we would kind of talk about in class, and it was like, well, what does love mean to you? Well, everybody talks about love, and, you have this concept, but what is it? And we don't know that the way we think about it right now as individuals is the way that it's thought of in the universe or in the all that is by God, whatever you want to call it. And so it was like, and it was the same with all these words. And so one of the things is like, if you would be, say you're talking about wanting to make changes in your life and you're using certain words, I want to be happy. Well, what is happiness to you? What does happy mean? What does it mean to be happy? Well, you might have an expectation, but then Creator gives you all the happiness that you could desire, and you're going, but I'm still not happy. Well, duh, if your meaning of happiness is not the same as Creator's, then
It's not
it's
going to
not
look the
going to
same.
match. So redefining or defining or asking for downloads, like to say, okay, please creator, download the definition of happiness for me. And I want to know what it feels. I want to know the feeling, what it feels like to be happy. And I know it's safe to be happy, and that it's safe to move forward in my life being happy, and that I can recognize happiness, and, but, and have my definition be the same as yours, and have truth, wisdom, discernment, all that stuff on it. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can say around that. Yeah. And be in alignment. And then it's like, even if sometimes there's words that you kind of go, well, I don't know if mine's the same or not. And I don't know what the hell, but it does something inside spiritually, that it's like all of a sudden you feel there's a connection. And so then when you talk about that stuff, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what Webster says about it. I have that deep knowledge that it's important where it counts, and that I'm connected with that feeling. And then things come out. So then when you start talking about wanting to be happy, or I don't feel happy, or what, then you and the universe are talking the same language. And so when you're talking about vows and promises and agreements and things like that, even in contracts even on this 3D plane level, you still want to know that the words you're using have the same meaning with the universe, because that shit carries out.
It does. And you start losing authenticity if your truth is not literally, another way of wording what you're describing is literally your truth is not in alignment with the highest possibility of that concept. So your truth is basically out of alignment with God's truth, just to put it in real basic vernacular. And I'm not saying that that's absolute across the board, but you're taking that chance when you're out of alignment, when your highest truth is out of alignment with what is truth or not truth, or variations of truth, in the creator realm.
Yeah.
You're never going to succeed 100% if you're not in alignment.
And so sometimes we make these connections on earth. We make these contracts or these promises or whatever. And then we die and we come back, and these old contracts that we made here are still kind of carrying along with us sometimes. And so then we have beliefs or systems set up where it's like, why the hell do I keep doing that? What is the problem? And then you find out I've still got past life contracts that I'm still carrying on. And why are you holding on to that when you no longer need it? And
so
and
now you're talking about absolution and or forgiveness, but now you're talking about seeking absolution from that.
And you can release those obligations if they're no longer serving you.
Correct.
But I went back and was looking at some of my old books just to kind of see because I couldn't remember what was said way back in the readings I had done. And I found one thing was, some people think I'm going to fix this and cancel clear this for me, but I'm going to release contracts. I don't want any contracts. This is it. I'm starting fresh. I'm going to fix everything. And it's like, no, don't do that. And like I said, cancel that for me. Because sometimes they're foundational, and some are good and still serve you. It's going through and figuring out what is still serving you, what isn't serving you. For example, I've been married twice, and I went through and released my significant others of any obligations that they had towards me, not just legally, but emotionally and spiritually, because I didn't want to drag that crap around with me forever. And I released myself of any obligations I had with them. But one of my exes is the father of my children, and we still get along. We go on vacations with the family and stuff like that. We get along great. We just can't be married to each other. And so I'm not going to release all the contracts that we might have with each other spiritually, because it's very important. But it's okay to release any obligation to me as a spouse, as a wife, as a significant other, as someone who is to be cherished and loved till death do us part. Yeah, cancel clear that. No, you can have it. I don't need it. And and that helps clean the clutter. If you think about, we go through life and we accumulate lots of things and clutter and stuff, that papers that stack up in the corner that we don't go through for years, and then you go through it years later and you go, why do I still have this? It's the same thing with these contracts and stuff that we have emotionally and spiritually made with other people, that you can kind of say, okay, or obligations, and sometimes, even with like our parents, as children,
Yeah.
we are basically forced to make promises. Don't you ever go anywhere without telling me where you're going. You stay with me. Don't ever leave me. And it's like, and then when you're an adult and they say one word to you and you just crumple at their feet, like, I didn't mean I'm such a mom. No, I'll always be with you. And you're 50 years old, and hell with that.
Yeah. Right.
And no more.
Right.
And after they die, I mean, my parents died, and I found that I was still doing things
You're
out of
still answering
respect.
to them. You were still
Yes,
answering to them.
yes. And I'm like, they're dead. What the hell am I doing?
That's good clarity. Pardon me. My nose is tingling off the roof. Yeah.
Okay.
That's beautiful high truth there, sweetie. And an excellent example that we can all relate to at some level. Yeah.
Yeah. And we pull so much shit on our kids. I mean, I'm not just blaming my parents. I mean, we do this as with people,
As a
with
culture.
children.
We do it as a culture. Yeah.
We pull stunts on them, guilt trips, all that stuff, and they make promises to us to make us happy. And then it's like, oh, great, there's another spiritual contract they have to dissolve when they get older. So if we can release them for them, then they don't
Step
have
in
to
the
go.
right direction. Yeah.
Yeah, and in 30 years, my children won't be going, she's dead. Why am I still doing this?
And that's called ancestral healing, which is which is a long way of saying clearing your ancestors from their contracts. You can do that on behalf of other people with their, you can't circumvent free will. But if your ancestors suffered from something, you can clear it up for all of them, including yourself.
And we do get things genetically. Some of this stuff gets imprinted in our genes.
It gets imprinted.
Yeah.
Shamanism has specific techniques for breaking contracts like this. Specifically, yeah, my nose is still draining and going crazy. Specifically spiritual contracts that are either were never appropriate or have become obsolete and need to shut down, have become inappropriate. And they call it soul retrieval and cord cuttings. Cutting cords, another way to say it, but soul retrievals and cutting cords are two common phrases, and there's all kinds of variations of that in the native and indigenous and pagan based spiritualities. But yeah, there's actually practices for how to change and or terminate unhealthy contracts on a spiritual level that goes across time and incarnations and dimensions. So this is not new information. This is ancient information that we're bringing forward today in modern terms.
Yes.
So Iris, can you gave us a great example of contracts just now, like between children and their parents. What are some more examples of contracts that you feel like our listeners could relate to? What are some other good examples of a contract, specifically a contract that probably would need to be closed or terminated either immediately or eventually?
Well, I think there's some contracts. What keeps popping in my head is there are contracts out there that, let's just say, you were an indigenous person in any kind of land or property.
Okay.
And at some point in a previous life.
Okay.
And new settlers come in. And you make agreements with them. And, and in many cases, the agreements were fine, they worked, whatever. But then in just as many cases, you were betrayed, you were deceived, you didn't get what you deserved out of that. Okay. Oops, we've lost her. She'll come right back. And I don't know if I need to wait. So yes, here she comes.
Sorry, I'm back.
That's okay. So yeah, I was like I was waiting. I paused. So okay.
So you didn't get it. Yeah, you didn't get what you expected out of the contracts with the settlers.
And you have a certain feeling against those people that betrayed you and all this stuff.
Betrayal.
And then you're born again, maybe 200 or 300 years later. And you have, and you're a different race, you're not the same, you're not indigenous anymore, it's 300 years later or whatever. But you have an aversion to certain types of people. And you can't figure out what. Those people never did anything to me, but I can't stand them.
Yeah, biases, aversions.
Biases, it could be racism, it could be
stereotypes.
Whatever.
Yeah, profiling, stereotypes, all that stuff. Yeah.
And so then if you have the opportunity to do some digging and find out in your past life this was what was going on, you're still holding on to that contract and the betrayal that
happened in the past.
And so by cutting those cords and releasing that, offering forgiveness, throwing in creator's love, all that stuff, going through that process to release that, then suddenly the stress goes down, the confusion goes down, the
clarity comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just one example, but then there's other things that, we do things in past lives, we do things in these lives,
in other dimensions.
In other dimensions, yeah. Sometimes we set up contracts before we even come here. And those are the ones that I think are fascinating. Wait a minute. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm sorry, Donna, I spoke too long without catching this. She says, is that the same as a door slam? And I'm not sure what she was referring to. Do you know?
Mm-mm. I don't know what a door slam is, so I don't know what part. So Donna, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, what did because I think it was something we said earlier and I'm not sure what it relates to, so I apologize. I lost Margot and that threw me off the chat.
It kind of yeah, past lives contracts. Before you go there, I was thinking of some examples too. Guys, we even have contracts with things we think are mundane, such as we have contracts with what is money. We have contracts with what is an opportunity and what is not. Very abstract stuff. We have contracts with food. We have contracts with animals. We have a different contract with domestic animals than we do with wild animals. We have a different contract with, say, insects and snakes than we do butterflies and ladybugs.
Well, not everybody does. I don't, but
right. Not everybody does too. So it's more.
Real quick,
Iris has contracts with fairies and Magic Kingdom and all those cool things in a positive way. So it's contracts aren't necessarily bad inherently. We're talking about the contracts that no longer serve you.
Well, and actually, I got a response to that. But let me say, Donna says cutting the cords, ending the contract is like slamming a door slam. Not exactly, Donna. To me, when I slam a door, it's like I'm just ignoring it and it'll go away.
Yeah,
and you can't come back
a door
in.
slam is a hard stop termination.
And I think it's a little more cutting cords and ending contracts. You're actually
there's a
when
process
you release them, you're honoring the fact that it served its purpose and now it's over. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize or don't take the time to do. It's like even with food, if you're not vegetarian and you're eating meat, you can honor the animal that gave its life without just going, okay, boom, that's it. It's on my plate. And, great steak, wham, and I'm eating it like, I've slammed the door on that. No, you can still give thanks and honor it for its life and appreciate the fact that it
was a beautiful
bringing
soul
nutrition and vitamins and
that gave you a gift.
Yeah. And it's the same with contracts and all. They had a purpose at some point. And, there was a reason our parents said, you're not going anywhere. Don't, tell me, tell me where you're going, hold my hand, stay with me, you owe me, all that stuff. There was a reason. And sometimes people make contracts emotionally because they don't really understand what they need at the time. So then, sometimes they can make wrong contracts when they make them, but it's not really a door slam. It's just going, I honor it. I get it. I know where this came from. Appreciate it, but it's done its time and it's time to release it.
There is a time and a place for door slams. And I'm pretty sure you'll know.
Yeah.
It'll be really obvious that hard stop is necessary. Sometimes there's a time and a place for door slam, but for the purpose of this show, that's not the type of closure that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Iris is describing in terms of honoring what has happened and then finding a peaceful way to change the direction and stop going in the direction that you were in that contract, changing it to a healthier path for as best you can for all involved. Yeah.
One of the things, and I want to address the contracts with the elementals and that sort of thing, because I do my communication through the 7th plane, which is the all that is, which is the highest level you can get to. I go to Creator and then communicate with whatever angels, animals, elementals, fairies, ghosts, whatever, because you don't need a contract when you make agreements through the Creator.
That's a good one.
Because it is done in a state of love and in a state of communication that we're all connected, as opposed to if I, on this 3rd plane, go to an elemental on the 2nd plane and go say, oh, aren't you adorable? And will you take care of my plants out here? Then he's okay. Yeah. But what are you going to bring me? I want some of that silver stuff. I want milk.
Alcohol,
I want
sugar.
Yeah. I want that stuff. And if I don't, it's going to get pissed off and do some sort of retribution. Whereas if I go to the 7th plane and I'm on that level and I'm getting clearer communication, there's not a bunch of bullshit coming behind it. And then it's like, we're working together. This is really cool. And 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 it's not because I'm looking to get out of any obligation I have.
No, you're looking for a harmonic relationship that's in
Right.
harmony. You're looking for harmony. Yeah.
So it takes them, it's sort of, when you're going one-on-one, then there's got to be some sort of agreement.
It's taking out the competition element.
Yes.
That shows up sometimes in duality. Two parties in a contract, or a contract between two entities, two beings. That also means there's room for competition.
Yes.
And you can bypass that with God consciousness. Yeah.
And it's just, you feel more connected and it comes through truer. It's just, yeah.
It becomes a balance instead of a competition. It becomes a cooperation instead of a competition. Yeah.
And there's clarity.
Yeah. Which makes it easier. It's also easier, thus grace and ease.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that follows right into it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. All right. So let me think. What was coming here?
There was something you asked earlier that I don't know if I ever addressed, but anyway.
Oh, I was gonna bring up another aspect of this, but let's go ahead. No, let's tie loose ends.
I can't remember. That's what I'm trying to remember what it was, but there's no need in having dead air. We can go on.
No,
it'll come back.
It'll come back. So my next thought is a popular question among my clients and so on is, some of it we've already touched on, but another one or two things that they typically ask is, ultimately they want to know, how do I identify a contract? What does that look like? How do I know? They kind of want affirmation is really what they're looking for. How can I confirm that that's a contract or not? And the other one they want to know is how to terminate contracts with minimum damage on either side, or no damage on either side. They want to know how to do that gracefully without struggling. And sometimes they don't recognize that struggling is a part of the whole thing, that's actually part of the contract, that this contract exists so that at the end of it, when it's time to terminate, you also experience that conflict and another opportunity for how to mitigate it or even avoid it if you can. But that's actually part of the dance for some people. Not always, but for some people. That's an interesting sidebar almost. Back on track. The easiest and most frequent way to, like I said, there's two things: how to terminate contracts gracefully, and before that, how to identify them in the first place. I'm pretty sure that Iris did a real good job in the beginning of the show identifying how contracts show up. When you feel obligated and you don't really know why, when you have a bias either for or against a particular group or person or situation, and you don't know why, or you're not clear about why you feel that way or choose that way, those are all things that are indicating that you have a contract with it on some level. So that part is you've done a good job answering that part. The next part, though, is, Iris, what are some advice-wise? What are some ways that people can approach ending a contract that they recognize is no longer healthy or necessary? What would be generally your first piece of advice for that?
I I ask Creator. I listen for answer. It's like, you can do muscle testing sometimes. That's a good way to, and if you don't know, muscle testing, there's different ways. Like Margot's doing her hands this way, or like I've done it with like my middle finger and thumb together and put my finger in and go, and try to separate them.
Yeah, pushing on it.
Yeah, but another way to do it is to stand up and face north. And you want to make sure you're hydrated. And say the word yes. And close your eyes and say the word yes. What should happen is you'll feel your body move forward. And then let it go and stand up straight again. And then say the word no out loud. You have to say it out loud. And when you say the word no, it'll go backwards. So that's establishing that if that's the way it works, if yes goes forward and no goes backwards, when you close your eyes and when you say it out loud, then okay, I'm in a good place. If it doesn't work, then sometimes you literally like act like you're zipping up a jacket and you're aligning your energy again, or drink more water. And until you can get that yes no response in sync. Once you have that, then you can ask a question in a positive manner. Never put no in the question, like, this isn't a contract, is it? Or something like that. But go, is something like you say positive. This issue is related to a contract. This issue I'm having about such and such is related to a contract. And close your eyes and feel if your body goes forward or backwards. And you kind of keep asking those questions, narrowing it down.
Yes, no questions.
You know exactly. Yeah. Yes, no questions until you know exactly. And then you can even go on and say, is it safe for me to release this contract?
That's a brilliant one.
And if it's no, then you start thinking about, well, why isn't it safe? What is this contract doing for me? And then sometimes an idea will pop in your head like, this contract was put to keep me and so together. And if you get a yes and go, I am over this relationship. And then you might get a no. And it's like, oh, I need to work on my feelings about this relationship and
the contradictions I perceive. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Work on that. And then you go back and you go, is it safe to pull it now? And yes, and you go, okay, so I'm command, I want this obligation to this contract to be released and sent to Creator's light. I free so-and-so from any obligations that they still feel for me regarding this contract. I'm no longer bound to, that's, you go through those routines and rituals. If anybody wants to know more about that, they can schedule an appointment with me.
At iriscarter.com.
Yeah. Yes.
So, a part of what, by the way, guys, everything Iris just described has a lot to do with words and speaking and the power of words and the power of your words. And we did a past episode on spells and spelling and speaking. So feel free, to learn more about how powerful you just speaking. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be. This is what I want. This is what I am. This is what we are. Da 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 da. Just to give you a hint, there's a reason that creating words is called spelling. There's a reason.
That was our 10th and 11th show. It was a 2-part show we did.
Yeah.
Back in 2020.
And then, okay, so Iris, are you ready to switch over to the concept of karma?
Yeah. Yeah. And while I'm in here, let me go back. KRMA.
We have talked
Um,
karma before.
right. Like in episode 21, that was from January of 2021, we did Forgive and Remember, where we talked about forgiveness, how to forgive, all that stuff. And karma was included in that one. And we also did a show specifically on karma in June of 2022 called Debt at the Bank of Karma. And we talked about collective consciousness, forgiveness, punishment, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes with contracts and obligations, it's like, oh, people think, well, if I break it too early, then I'm going to suffer the consequences. Karma's going to get me, all that crap.
That's only one way that karma works. Karma works in other ways as well, and Iris is about to tell you.
You can forgive one thing is to forgive yourself.
That's step one. Once you
For
realize there's a problem.
actions and deeds, if you look at, I am only human. Well, cancels clear that. I am in a 3D world doing the best I can in the 3D level. Because you're not only human. I don't want to say
Remember,
that.
words are power, so she's trying really hard to be clear with her power. Thank you, Iris.
Yeah, yes.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest lessons that I learned in my life was actually when I was going through my second divorce and a bunch of other crap at the same time, and I was seeing a therapist. And this was before I'd gotten as spiritual as I am now. But the therapist, I was, well, I was in my 30s, but I had been a victim of date rape when I was like 16 years old. And it came up in therapy. And I was still beating myself up for what happened. And I did the typical thing that victims do that they're now bringing out. I see it in movies and stuff a lot now. I should have fought harder. I should have done more. I should have, could have, would have, all that. And she goes, Iris, if a 16-year-old girl came up to you and told you that she was in the same situation and the same thing happened to her, would you tell her that she was stupid and she didn't do enough and that she should have fought harder and she should have done all this other stuff? And I went, no. Then why the hell are you doing it to yourself? And we do that in all aspects of our lives. I've got a woman at work that she was kicking herself because she forgot to write something down, and it was like, you're doing the best you can in the moment. Why are you kicking yourself? I know I need to, and it comes from stuff that her mother said from when she was a kid. I mean, I picked right up on, I started throwing stuff at her. I said, yeah, whose voice is that? All this stuff. And going with the nose again. And and I said, but I've been guilty of it too. Sit and go, damn, I can't believe I did that. Why did I do that? And then it's like, because in that moment, were you really thinking, oh, what evil can I invoke upon myself and what chaos can I create? Unless you are truly evil, nobody does that. You make decisions and you do things based on
in that
the
moment,
issues at hand, the facts of them that and what is at your disposal at that moment.
at that time. Yeah.
So
You don't know
5
what you
minutes
don't know,
later,
so you can't judge yourself for stuff you didn't know.
yes.
That makes no sense otherwise. Yeah.
And so whether it's 5 minutes later or 50 years later,
Right.
you're still hounding yourself about that. One, why? It's gone. It's in the past. And every moment that lives on in your brain is living in the past.
Correct.
And 2, you're not forgiving yourself. And
Or
so you
anyone
come
else.
around to that child that you were at the time you did something that you're bashing yourself about, or as the tired, exhausted mother you were at the time when you yelled at your kid needlessly, or when you burnt the pancakes at a wonderful breakfast you were trying to serve somebody, whatever silly nonsense that you're beating yourself up for. Turn around and in your mind, look at the person that's doing that, which is yourself at that moment, and forgive them. And go, I'm being way too hard on myself. I'm being too hard on you. You can treat them like another person if you need to. That might make it easier. And you go, I'm done with that. Thank you for helping me learn. And I know how to progress from that moment. I know that I don't do that kind of crap anymore. And you taught me some wonderful lessons. Thank you so much. I love you. I'm going to put you back in the past because that's where you belong. And let it go.
That is letting it go. You just described letting go. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.
And so, yeah. And so we create. So we create a lot of karma for ourselves.
Thinking that there is penalties that are actually self-actualized, self-created. And karma is a word for those penalties. That, what comes around goes around, equal balance, and a lot of people and a lot of belief systems use those terminologies to justify their belief in karma, to instill the fear of retribution, that somehow that there is a imbalance in the universe that you're personally responsible for if you participate in the supposed imbalance at any point, at any time, at any level. Therefore, you're responsible for how the universe works only to a point. Only your own manifestations are you responsible for. Karma is a description of outside forces that you don't control, which is a way of disempowering you.
There you go.
When you believe in that shit, when you believe in karma, when you believe something outside of you and your God self and your higher consciousness or whatever you want to call it, and there's lots and lots of words for that. If you believe anything outside of that controls, or any other being controls what happens to you, you're lying to yourself. Everything happens because you precipitated it somehow, somewhere in your past, in a past life, in this life, on another level of consciousness, all kinds of ways. And to blame it on something else is to call it karma.
I just had a realization.
Yes.
A big epiphany.
Lay it on us, baby.
There have been times in my life where I have witnessed karma playing out when somebody did something to me, and I would go, yeah, they'll get their comeuppance.
That
And
happened
watch
because you
it
said
play
that.
out. Yes.
Not because of karma, but because you wanted it.
It's manifestation. When you want somebody to get their comeuppance for something that they wronged you with, you're manifesting that for them.
It's coming out of you manifesting. It has nothing to do with karma. Yeah. That's because we're that powerful.
Yeah.
When you stop believing in coincidences, you start understanding how powerful you really are.
And I have seen, I can't wait till she has to go through this situation and get off my ass about it. Bam, then it happens, and it's like,
we are calling in those freight trains.
So it really is, and it was like we mentioned this right before the show, and I said I really think karma is something like what a religious sect does to put fear into people. If
It's
you
very
don't
much a
stop, karma's going
religious
to get you.
concept. Yeah. The whole
So we
concept,
punish ourselves.
guilt, punishment, control, karma. Yeah, they're all interrelated religious terms. Those are not, my opinion, I don't think they're spiritual terms. I think they are strictly religious terms. And you have to know the difference. Obviously, you need to have clarity, know the difference between spirituality and religiosity. But yeah, karma is about control and fear and guilt and punishment. Mm-hmm. And all those things are missing what Iris has been talking about earlier. They're all missing forgiveness, learning, growth, cooperation, harmony. Yeah. Which
And the
is
other
what
thing is,
spirituality is about.
and
Yeah.
not only do you need to forgive yourself, but recognize when somebody does something that is offensive or you feel is intrusive or whatever, then it's okay to forgive them. And again, we did a whole show on this. Forgive them and release yourself of the obligation of having to let them rent space in your head.
Absolutely. I'm about to lose battery power on my cell phone. I forgot to go get my power cord. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, let me see. Okay. Janine, hello. I've manifested things as well that I labeled karma, but in reality, it was me. I was the karma. Yes. Yes, exactly. And I honestly never thought about that until we were just now talking about. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. And so then what that does to me, which I've been more careful in previous years, is it reminds me, we love your ceiling light, Margo.
There it
It
is.
reminds me to be more careful with my words, and I'm forgiving people more. I don't need karma to punish people, because why do I want to punish people? Because they're doing the best they can in any moment, and I
And
could
so
easily make a mistake. Usually when I get mad at people, it's because I'm mad at something that is not right in my own life.
mirrors.
Yes.
Everything is a mirror. Yeah.
She agrees. She says, yeah, she's been doing the same thing. Yeah. And it's so freeing when you're
Ah,
not worried about what other people are doing, and when you're responsible for yourself. I just wrote an article about that today. I sent it out in a newsletter talking about I'll be the victim all my life, all your life. It was I was the
that's
thing
a
from
quote.
Adam's Family Values. They're getting ready to do the little swimming life saving thing,
You
and
be the rescuer and you play the victim. Oh, I'll
yeah,
play the victim all your
all
life.
your life. And so
Wednesday.
in
Wednesday.
playing that, yeah, and we go around and we play that victim role, and and I also gave the caveat, yes, so traumatic things happen to people. People get robbed, mugged, shot, whatever. Then they need to grieve through the process of whatever they've lost or had to deal with, get through the shock
Grow
and
from.
all of that. But when they're done, there comes a time where you go, okay, that's over. I'm regaining my strength back. I'm going to go back to being the person I was. Whereas some people lament it for 20 years later. I never can go out on the street by myself because I'm afraid I'll be victimized again. Honey, every time you say that, you're victimizing yourself.
You're calling it in. You're
Yeah,
casting a spell. You're creating a program. You're planting a wish. You're sending out a direct order to the universe. You are
you're
manifesting.
making a contract.
You are making a contract. Yeah. Watch your Words. They are contracts.
And so it's like, and that's what my article, it was for the newsletter I do for my work, and it was like, taking inventory of yourself and being responsible for yourself and your own actions and deciding not to be a victim. Doesn't mean that that you're not allowed to have that grief process. But then there's also people who just constantly blame other people for their problems. And that was the crux of it was, my teacher gave me a bad grade because she doesn't like me. Is it possible that you just didn't study well enough and you're just looking for an excuse?
Sour grapes. When you realize somebody's actually doing that sour grapes thing, yes. There's the victim mentality showing up in the words. Yeah.
And so that's what, and contracts, if you want to live in that contract forever and eternity, go
You
ahead.
sure can. Yeah, you sure can. Yeah, if you want to, you sure can. But yeah, you don't have to.
And that's the lovely thing about having free will. You can decide if you want to hold on to anger. You can decide if you want to forgive people or not. But I tell you what, life's a lot better when you do forgive them and when you do let go of that garbage because, it's like a little wagon you're towing, and that wagon gets heavier and heavier the more shit you pile onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And who wants to do that?
The more forgiving that you do, it's the next level of that is we can't even begin to describe literally the number of perks that kick in right after that you didn't even realize were possible, that you didn't even realize were related to the situation. Forgiveness just totally starts a crescendo. It is a critical mass. It is a 100th monkey effect, however you want to characterize it, that a cascade of brilliant things happen right after it that are all empowering to you and anybody else that needs to be involved. So yeah, once you start throwing out forgiveness genuinely, all kinds of beautiful perks and benefits of being in that positive flow just keep coming at you like gangbusters. And a lot of them are not predictable, but they show up and you're like, oh, that's so cool. And you know what that is? That's manifesting.
Yes.
Because you forgave and you took away a block by doing that. So all this stuff that was held back is now flowing through your life. So there's more perks than just being the good guy. Right? Because sometimes people don't want to forgive because of that. They're like, screw that shit. I'm always the good guy. I always am the first one to step up and say, I'm sorry. Why does it always have to be me? Yeah, with that victim mentality, it's not you and you're not stepping up. So,
yeah. Yeah.
But when you do, holy cow, the cavalcade of cool shit that happens next and next and next is really cool. Totally worth it. Give it a try. But
and it literally feels like stuff falls away. It's like
and more bad shit falls off. Not only does good stuff come on, you're right, bad shit falls off. And give it a try, but make sure you're doing it authentically. Otherwise, that doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, I think we're about at the end of our time.
We are. Iris, can you give people a happy reminder about what's happening in March?
I don't know. March, yes, 21st through the 24th. We're having it's called Heal the Healer Summit Retreat. And if you go to iriscarter.com, it's the first thing on the menu. Click, you can learn all kinds of stuff about it. But we're going to be at Emerald Isle Beach in North Carolina on in a retreat environment. It's beautiful. It's cabins and nice rooms, and all your food is paid for.
Trees everywhere, ocean everywhere, beach everywhere. It's awesome.
Yes. And it's salt marshes, natural area, the kind of natural area you don't see on beaches enough anymore.
Yeah,
And
because it's a nature conservatory.
yes.
So it's actual real coastal environment, real trees and real funky sawgrasses and cool stuff like that.
And it starts on Thursday. Check-in is at 4. We'll gather at 5 o'clock. Then we continue with workshops through Sunday morning. The event ends at noon on Sunday, but your meals from Thursday evening to Sunday morning are included.
On the property.
Right, on the property, so you don't have to worry about getting there and then having to drive here, there, and yonder. It's like once you're there, you park it and just enjoy. We're going to have campfires every night. There'll be meditation, music. We'll be talking about helping people, especially people who are teachers and healers. Anybody's welcome, but it'll mean a lot to people who are teachers and healers and energy workers to rejuvenate themselves and to teach them kind of go next level on being sure that they're taking care of themselves, because that's what we're here to do, is to now take care of ourselves and help the people that have moved up and who have awakened. We're not trying to awaken people anymore. If they do, that's great. But, a lot of healers are exhausted from the work that we've done for the past 3 years. And now it's like, okay,
you got to change your focus, folks.
Got to change your focus. So we're going to work on that. Thank you, Dale and Jeannie. They're going to be there presenting, and we'll be there. And we've got a couple other presenters coming. Total of 19 events?
19 events, activities and events and gatherings. There's 19 of them in those days, and they all have breaks in between, so it's not like you're going to get machine gunned.
Yeah.
And there's also opportunities for we have vendors coming in, so you're going to see a lot of cool items and artwork and services that you can benefit from as well. With us.
Yeah, and just having a community of like-minded people to be around, I think is really exciting. So, beautiful setting. There and we've got the early bird registration going on right now. Ends the 31st of this month, and the price goes up a little bit until January, end of January, and then the end of January it goes up even more. So if you want to get in and secure a spot, please register. Also, coming up, did I do that right? No, I did not. Yeah, there we go. Next week, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we're going to do psychic readings. So be sure to come for that with your questions. And then on the 29th, we're going to talk about a lot of people are confused by the chaos that seems to be going on around us at the moment. So
understanding and or explaining the general chaos and the feeling of chaos that even less, because everybody's intuitive, but some people are aware of their intuition and some are less aware. But even lesser aware people are sensing the chaos.
Yes. So, but come back next week and we'll be doing psychic readings, and we appreciate everybody being here tonight. It was good to hear from so many of you, and thank you for being here.
Very much so.
Good night.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining the Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod. Find us at facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo, on YouTube under @Iris Carter Enterprises, and on various podcast aggregators. Copyright 2023 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears.